honestly cannot believe that we are finally here. We are talking all about New York City apartments. We're doing the apartment tours. We're doing the apartment tips. Everything you need to know from Yoni and I's experience of finding a New York City apartment, because let me tell you, it's been a ride, okay? I have a lot to say because, you know, you hear stories, you watch so many New York City apartment tour videos, you hear what people tell you and you get the advice and you do your research, and somehow we were still not prepared. So there were a lot of lessons that we learned. I'm gonna tell you guys everything they need to know. If you watch this video, you probably watched many other New York City apartment hunting videos. So I'm not gonna go in detail with like every single thing they need to do to get an apartment here. I wanna add to what's already out there for things that I just didn't know until I went through the experience. So first, when it comes to finding the apartments that you wanna tour online, we mostly used StreetEasy. It's the most popular one in New York City. StreetEasy is better just because it's updated much more frequently. You have like the most up-to-date information about the listings, what's available, what's in contract, what just got posted, how long ago it got posted. Because it's the most up-to-date, it's also the one that you have to check the most frequently. I would say it's really important to get in the habit of checking StreetEasy for new listings literally every single hour. Like, I'm not even exaggerating. Agents actually told me that they're always about to post a new listing. Even when they're touring, they told me like, oh, I'm showing you this apartment, but I'm about to go back to my desk and post like 5 new listings. Even though on StreetEasy you can request a tour through the app or through the website, I still think the best way to get into contact with the agents is to find their personal phone number, which might seem a little creepy, but that was the most success I had with actually getting to tour apartments much faster. So I would highly recommend that you guys find the phone numbers and directly text them, if not even call them. I feel like calling them would be better. If you can't find them on StreetEasy, you can check Zillow. Usually they probably have listings on there and they might have the contact info in there. Another important thing is that as soon as I talked to the agent and basically figured out, okay, you can tour it on this day, I always tried to ask them if I can apply for the apartment before I viewed it. There are some agents that have no problem with you actually applying for an apartment before you even view it. I think it would be great to do that for every apartment. It's only a $20 fee. It's really important that you get in your application as soon as possible. So there were a few apartments that we applied for before we even viewed them, simply so that we can get ahead in line. Okay, next, I just quickly want to talk about documents. I'm going to list all of the documents that you need to have in general. You can find this on Google, anywhere you research. Most landlords request all the same kind of documentation. However, I do want to specifically talk about self-employed people, because both Yoni and I are self-employed. We work for ourselves, and that can get a little bit tricky in New York because New York landlords don't trust you. As a self-employed person, as soon as they see that on your application, they take it as a red flag. Even though you might qualify for the apartment in terms of like you make 40 times the monthly rent, they don't care. Even if you qualify for it on paper, and in that case, they might ask for a guarantor, and a guarantor is somebody that also kind of co-signs with you on your lease. That is actually not uncommon, and it's not something that you should feel like ashamed about. There's a lot of people in New York that need to have guarantors just because that's how the real estate works here. Okay, and the last tip that I have for you guys is that something will have to give. You will have to sacrifice one thing, if not maybe 2, but you just will not ever be able to get every single thing you want in your apartment. If you are in a more constrained budget or average budget, then there's something that will always have to give when it comes to your apartment. Everybody has different priorities. Everybody has different things that they're willing to sacrifice, but I just think that there will always be something that you're like, oh, only if this was better. Well, is everything else off of your list pretty much checked off? Because that might be the best that you can get for your budget. Okay, so now for what we were looking for, Yoni and I definitely needed a 1-bedroom apartment. We were also looking in downtown Manhattan, as I said, everything below 14th Street, but also excluding Financial District. Also Williamsburg and Greenpoint. Our budget was anything under $3,500 a month. If we were gonna pay $35, it had to be like the perfect apartment. And in terms of priorities and what we wanted to make sure that we have, because I make YouTube videos, I clearly need natural light. So that was a non-negotiable. Natural light was super important, and also location, because we're moving to New York to be in New York, to be in the city, to be in an area that is characteristic of New York, where like I can walk outside, I can go downstairs, and I'm in the middle of something, in the middle of what I want to be. So we were willing to sacrifice a few things as long as we had natural light, and we really, really loved the location. So the first apartment that we saw was on the Lower East Side, and this apartment was a 1-bedroom for $3,800, but it did come with 1 month off, which net effective rent would be $3,483. So up there, close to that $3,500. This was in a great location. As I said, it was kind of like on the western side of the Lower East Side, so it was close to, you know, Nolita and even the East Village. Really like the layout of this apartment, as it felt super open and spacious. The bathroom had like really nice finishes, and it had a medicine cabinet, which is always welcomed because storage is hard to find. The shower is also pretty spacious, and next to the bathroom, actually on the outside, was a washer and dryer, which are really hard to find in New York and are quite a luxury, which actually kind of shows in the price point of the apartment. The bedroom was also a pretty good size. You could definitely fit a queen bed in there and maybe some extra storage, especially since the closet was a little small for 2 people. The living space was quite big and bright, as it was a corner unit, so it had lots of windows. There was also some exposed brick throughout the unit, which gave it this like kind of cozy, not entirely new, renovated look. Definitely have enough space to play around with the living room area, which I really liked. You can have a couch, you can probably have a dining table. Kitchen was on the corner, which I actually really liked because it kind of divided it from the rest of the apartment. I really liked how you had the window on the side, and it had like new appliances and modern details. It actually had a dishwasher and a microwave, which is great. So overall, we really liked this apartment. I would say like the cons were that the street that it was on, I wouldn't say it was like the most kind of welcoming and cute and like I want to walk around, but it was super close to a lot of those areas. The price was still a little bit high, and we wanted to keep looking, especially because this was the first apartment we saw. Then also on the Lower East Side, we saw 2 units all in the same building, and this is the perfect example of how, even though it says the Lower East Side, when we actually walked to where these apartments were, we were like, oh yeah, this is not it. This is not the area, because even though the apartment might be nice or whatever, it's just not the location at all. But we still wanted to see it just for the sake of it. So we saw 2 units, both were listed at $2,600. This apartment was a railroad style apartment, which is super common in New York, and I would say that especially downtown is most of what you're gonna get is this style of an apartment. The bedroom itself was a good size, and it was quite bright, and we really, really liked the dark wood floors. The closet was a little small for 2 people, which I feel like is gonna be a reoccurring thing in all of these apartments. But the rest of the apartment actually was pretty dark, so only the bedroom had really great light. Kitchen was also pretty small, even though it did have like a full-size fridge and a gas stove, which I've always wanted a gas stove. I love cooking, so gas stoves are known to be like the best. But again, like even the kitchen wasn't very bright, and overall like the vibe in the unit just didn't feel like I couldn't see myself living there. Similar with the second unit we saw in this building, it wasn't very different. The only thing was that the bedroom did have higher ceilings, and like just the apartment had higher ceilings overall. In the kitchen, they were actually replacing, I think, the fridge or the stove or something. So as you can see, it was like super crowded with a bunch of appliances, which made it really hard to even visualize like how big the space is. But again, because of the location, even though it was a great price, I don't care. I moved here to be in a good area, okay? That's why I moved to New York. And the fourth apartment that we saw on the Lower East Side, it was going for $2,745. Go to the coffee shop or grocery store or something, you did have to walk a little bit. So in terms of location, it was okay, but not the best. As soon as we walked in, we knew it wasn't it, also because it was very small and dark. It did look very different in the photos, which real estate agents will get you with those photos. They got really good at making it look like it's the brightest apartment you've ever seen. They used the shit out of that wide angle, so don't let those photos deceive you. It was also full of just stuff from the person that was living there, so again, really hard to actually see how big the place was. The living space was quite narrow, but it did feel really cozy because it had nice big windows. However, they were facing north, so you weren't gonna get any direct light, which is very important. The kitchen was tucked away with a good amount of storage, but there was absolutely no windows there, and it was really, really dark. So that's not ideal for me because I really enjoy cooking and I really enjoy showing myself cooking in my videos. So having light in the kitchen is quite important. However, I did really like the bedroom in this unit. It had just a really nice vibe. I loved the way that it was tucked by the windows, and it just felt like you could be, like I kind of wanted to get in that bed. It just looked really cozy. And the bathroom was also really nice because it had a full tub and it had nice under sink storage, which is always super welcome. However, clearly this unit, too small, too crammed. The location was and it was just like really dark pretty much. The next apartment we saw was in the East Village, which is right above the Lower East Side. A 1-bedroom for $2,895. The location was in the middle of the East Village, super close to Tompkins Square Park. A lot of great like coffee shops and restaurants and all the things. So in terms of location, it was great. When you walk in, you walk straight into the kitchen, which wasn't very bright, even though it did have a window there, but it did seem to have a good amount of storage as there was like 2 sides to the kitchen facing each other. Around the corner was the bedroom, which honestly, I would call it more of a sleeping alcove than a bedroom, since all you can fit is a bed. And that one, again, it was super dark. Even if it had a window, there was like no light coming through it whatsoever. The bathroom in this unit was actually split. So the toilet was right in the bedroom area. The shower situation, however, was one of the biggest reasons why this apartment was just a no, because it's pretty much just a door and a shower. Like it's not like a room that has a shower in it. And on top of that, there's no sink. So the kitchen sink is also the bathroom sink. So not a vibe. The living room was really nice and bright. So this was again another like railroad style apartment that was super long, and only one end of the apartment was actually bright. I could see it being really cozy, and it could fit a good amount of furniture to make it feel like a living room. And also the closet was in the living room instead of the bedroom. So after we saw this unit, the agent let us know that he has another listing that he hasn't posted yet and nobody has seen. It was just the street over, so still the exact same great area, but it was going for $3,495. So boom, we reached that budget line right there. As soon as we walked in, we were like, oh, okay, we see why it cost this much. Like the unit was super bright. It had a window in every single part of the apartment. Kitchen was also new and modern, and it had stainless steel appliances, gas stove and an oven, a dishwasher and a microwave, good amount of storage. It didn't have much counter space, which is something that is actually very hard to find in New York, but I would say that the room looks bigger in the video than it was when you're actually there in person. To share the kitchen and the living room in that little area, it felt a little bit too crammed for us personally. The bedroom overall was really bright with 2 super large windows, and it also had that exposed brick over the whole apartment, which was really, really nice. It also had a pretty large closet and some above storage, which can come in really handy for things that you don't use all the time, like bulkier items or luggage or stuff like that. The room would mostly fit a bed and maybe like a little extra storage. The bathroom was also renovated with really nice and modern finishes. I appreciated the glass shower cabin thing. It made it seem so like luxurious for some reason. And there was also a washer and dryer in unit, which again is really hard to find. And it also had a window. I've never had a window in my bathroom, and that's something that I've always wanted. So this one actually brought in a lot of natural light, which was great. This apartment overall was really great. It was like a high contender for us. It was bright throughout the whole apartment. It had really nice details. It gave us that like New York feel. It was in a great location, but for some reason we just didn't really want to pay that much for the fact that the living room and the kitchen was so crammed together. Like the shared space, I'm telling you, for some reason it just felt really small. So for that reason we were like holding off on it, but it was definitely the first top contender. Okay, now we're heading over to Williamsburg. It was a 1-bedroom for $3,295, and this was a 10-minute walk from like the center of Williamsburg, like where there's all the shops and the fun vintage stores and the restaurants and all the good stuff, like the good area of Williamsburg. But for a 10-minute walking radius, there wasn't much. So you did have to walk a little bit to get to that nice area. However, the apartment was incredible. Like this apartment was huge. Nice storage right here. We have washer and dryer.
Very important. You can even.
In New York, you have an entrance to the bathroom from here, so you don't have to go to the bedroom. Into the living space, the kitchen, the couch, the TV, or whatever it is. Like maybe you can have the couch facing this way. Gas stove, which is always better than any kind. Gas stove. Full-sized fridge. The freezer that smells like cabbage or something. Bedroom.
The master bedroom.
Ceilings are very tall.
I like that.
They have the closet. Then you have the entrance to the bathroom.
The master bathroom.
Nice space on the vanity where you can put all your things. And that's the tour. So clearly the apartment was amazing. It was bright, it was big, it was modern, it had lots and lots of storage. It had a washer and dryer. It was a great price. It was like a good-ish location. So this was actually the first apartment that we applied for because we were so sure this was it. However, by the time that we sent in our application, we could already see on Street Easy that it said in contract, which actually, if you don't know, when an apartment says in contract, it means that someone got approved and they put down their deposit and they're about to sign their lease. It's very rare that when an apartment says in contract, it's going to go back on the market. So unfortunately, someone had actually seen it the day before and they had already applied when we toured the apartment. The next unit we toured was in the West Village, which is a very fun area, super popular, very competitive to get an apartment there, especially if it's a really good one because everybody wants to live in the West Village. It's so nice. As soon as you walk in, you get into the kitchen area, which was very bright. It had nice finishes and a good amount of storage, and it did have a gas stove, but it didn't have much counter space and it did feel a little bit narrow. This unit is another example of a bathroom that was split between the toilet and the shower/sink. So the rest of the bathroom was fine, really nothing special. It had a good vanity with storage. Their rooms were so small. We walked into the first room and I was like, is this the living room or the bedroom? Only fit a queen size bed wall to wall, and there's like nothing else you could really put in there. Maybe a stool or like, I don't know, a nightstand. And the room that would have been the living room had a small open closet. It just felt more of like an apartment with 2 bedrooms and a kitchen rather than a bedroom and a living room. And the agent actually told us that that is mostly the case, where 2 students would live there and they would each have a bedroom, and this is close to NYU, so it makes sense. The same agent actually showed us another unit that was close by. It was more in Greenwich Village and a block away from the middle of Washington Square Park. It did feel a little bit bigger. The bedroom was very small again, however. You could only fit a bed, but it did have natural light and it had a small closet. I would say the bathroom was really cute. It had this like old school retro feel because of the tiles, and it did have a small window, but it brought in a lot of natural light. So I really loved the bathroom. The kitchen was simple. It had some storage, gas stove, full-size fridge. Again, not a lot of counter space, but it did sort of have a designated eating area where you could put a dining table, or you could make the kitchen bigger and put like an island type of thing and have more counter space and more storage. And then the living room was again very small. I don't know if you can tell in the video, but when we were there in person, I just couldn't imagine being there on a couch facing a wall that's like not even that far away from you, especially because we have to film and stuff and you need like a certain width and length, and this was very kind of Legoed together. For that reason, even though the price was good and the location was good for what we needed, it didn't check enough boxes for us. The 11th unit that we saw was in Nolita, which is north of Little Italy. That's what it stands for. It's an amazing, amazing location. Like honestly, the most perfect location in my opinion, because you're right in the center of downtown Manhattan. The unit started off with a super long and narrow hallway. And I mean, the space was really bright. It was south facing and it was also a corner unit. Living room was huge. Probably the biggest one we had seen in Manhattan. The bathroom was really narrow and long, but it also had two big windows, and even though you can't see it in the video, it could have been very bright. And then the kitchen was galley style. It didn't have any like crazy finishes or anything, but it did have a full-size fridge and a gas stove, and it had enough space also to create even more counter space if you wanted to on the other side. And then the bedroom was also a great size. Like it had a full-size queen bed in there, large closet. It was kind of surprising. That was like, I think the biggest closet we had seen also. It didn't seem very bright, but it actually had east-facing windows, so you would get morning light. Unfortunately, as we were touring this apartment, the agent did tell us that someone had already applied for it and they were waiting to get approved, which unfortunately they did. The landlord wanted everybody to tour the apartment before they applied, so we couldn't apply ahead of seeing it. It was such a great unit. It definitely makes me hopeful and happy to see that there are units like that available for that price. I mean, at $3,295, that size with that much stuff, like amazing. That right there I would say is a steal. The next unit we saw was going for $3,300. It was a one bedroom, and this one was on the 4th floor. This was much more of an open concept unit. The kitchen had full-size appliances. It had a really large southeast facing window. As you can see, like it's really bright and it felt so warm and welcoming in there. And I was just imagining like cooking, and then the light is like shining on the food. You know, you gotta think about those things. There was this little awkward sitting area slash lower counter space. I don't know what was up with that. I would say the bathroom was the perfect size. It had a full-sized south-facing window, so the bathroom would get light like all day. For me, I don't know why, having a nicely lit bathroom, it makes me feel very clean and very fresh. And you can also open the window and there's ventilation after the shower. And then the living space had a brick accent wall, which was really nice touch. Weirdly, the closet was in the living room, so it did kind of make it for a weird configuration of like there's the kitchen, then there's a wall, then there's a closet, and then there's like the area where you would probably put the couch. So that was a little bit awkward, but I really liked how bright and open it felt. And then the bedroom had these really beautiful glass sliding doors that were such a nice touch. We really liked how you could fully separate the space, but it also just added character, and the light can actually get through the entire apartment from the bedroom. And the bedroom was actually a pretty good size. It was very, very, very bright with super large windows, and it could comfortably fit a queen size bed and probably some extra storage or even a desk or a chair or something. So if you didn't already catch on, the last apartment is the one that we got, because you can see the doors right here, which clearly I love. I'm not sure if it's exactly the last one that we toured, but I wanted to put it last because I felt like it would give away the fact that this is the apartment, and it's always like, ooh, which one did she choose? I am really happy with our choice, even though right now, if you look, the bedroom is still really bright, but the living room slash kitchen isn't that bright right now because it's later in the day, so the sun is over here. The reason why we chose this apartment is because of the location, which unfortunately, as I said, I can't share with you, but the location is just amazing. And we moved to New York for the city. We moved here to be able to have everything at our fingertips, to be able to go downstairs and walk to everything, to have subway lines close by, to be in the nitty gritty, in the hustle and bustle. Like, that's why we came here. It's just what we wanted for our first year. Maybe a year from now, we're like, let's go to Brooklyn. I'm done with this Manhattan shit. I don't know. We applied as soon as we saw it, like straight from a coffee shop. And we also asked the agent if there were any pending applications for this unit, which I think is actually a good question to ask, because if you really like a place and you apply, you should also ask if there's anybody else that has applied before you so that you can prepare yourself, because after the battle that you go through to find an apartment, to lose an apartment is quite heartbreaking. You start envisioning how you're gonna set up the living room and you're gonna cook here and there's gonna be light when you, like, that's what I do when I see an apartment. I just start envisioning my life there and I start envisioning how I'm gonna film things in there. Don't do that to yourself. I do that, which is not good, which is the reason why I also cried in that 1 week that we were looking for apartments. It was a stressful time. I am really happy that we have an apartment and we officially have an address because we live in New York City, and it's just crazy to be here. But I really hope that this video was helpful, entertaining, useful. Let me know if you have any questions for me. Look back at all the tips that I gave you because they're good tips so that they save you energy, money, and your state of mind. Okay? Thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys back here with another video later. Okay? Remember to subscribe, like, comment, all those things. Okay, bye.